Hey there everyone, welcome back to another Impressions video, and today I'm going to be talking about this game right here. This is Langrisser Re Incarnation. It's Langrisser Tensei in Japanese, but it does say Reincarnation right on the box, so I guess that's the English name. I'm just guessing, but I assume it is. But yeah, we're going to talk about Langrisser. Um, so I've been playing Langrisser forever. It's kind of like I played Warsong back in the day on the Genesis, and I've played all the other games in the series, even the terrible Dreamcast one. Um, and there are a lot of games. This is the sixth, maybe seventh, maybe. I don't remember, but I know there's up to Langrisser 5, but there. Oh no, it's the seventh because there's the Dreamcast one isn't a numbered one. So I'm sure that this is the seventh. It might I might be wrong. I'm not going to look it up. I'm just going from the top of my head. But there's a bunch of Langrisser games on this Saturn. Um, plus there's Warsong, or the first Langrisser on PC Engine and Sega Genesis in English, so you can actually play it in English. I don't know about the other ones. I don't think they're in English. But Langrisser, what kind of game is it? It's a strategy RPG. It's a lot. I mean, if you think of something like Fire Emblem, you kind of get an idea of what Langrisser is like. The systems are not the same. They're not. It's not a one-to-one copy. It's there's a lot of differences between Langrisser and Fire Emblem. So, but if you had no idea what kind of game Langrisser is, and you'd probably be okay going into it thinking like it's a game similar to Fire Emblem but different in a lot of major ways. So, okay, but we're gonna. That's just like a general introduction to Langrisser. It's a huge series. It's been around for a long time. Um, but yeah, we're gonna look at how is this game? How is Langrisser on the 3DS? First thing I think I should talk about is what it looks like. It's not. It doesn't look like a good game. And that's not to say it's a bad game. It's just saying that it looks cheap. Um, and it probably is cheap. I'm not denying that it's probably a relatively low budget game. Um, but so it doesn't look like it has the same kind of budget quality as like a Fire Emblem game. So if you go into it and you think like this feels cheap, it kind of is. I mean, I'm not saying that makes it a bad game or anything, but if you're going into it expecting like good graphics or something, you're going to be disappointed. But this series, this game is actually not exactly the same as the way this other series works. It's a little bit different. Um, but when you play it, essentially, it's like Fire Emblem. You're on a grid. You have your units, and they have a certain amount of health. Um, and this is different because in at least some of the previous games, you had um, a general and troops, and you have that in this, but it's not set up the same way. You'd have a general with a certain type of troop, and you'd attack, and depending on the general's skills and the troop type, you'd have uh, kind of different abilities and things you could were stronger against. But this game, it sort of has that. It sort of has this a weakness system similar to Fire Emblem, but it's not to the same level. It's not as important in this game so much. I mean, it gives you like some slight bonuses, but it doesn't tell you what the bonuses are, and they don't appear to be incredibly significant to the point where like you should always be, attacking. Like in Fire Emblem, if you attack like a flying unit with a bow, they're gonna get wrecked. But in this game, if you do it, it's gonna do a little bit of bonus damage, but it's not gonna be enough to like destroy you every time. So we've got, you know, some differences like that, but it also has sort of different character classes and things that you can do in this. And there are a lot of character classes. You'll find playing this game that you switch character classes a lot, and it's not like it's something you have to do. It's like every time your character levels up 10 levels, you change your character class to one of two paths in the thing, and it kind of branches off like in a every time you select a class, the next time you level up 10 levels, you'll get to select between two different classes. So you kind of branch off like this, and you have a bunch of branches in the middle for your class. And depending on like what kind of character you want to make, you select the paths you want. I'm sure there's guides for it online, what paths go to what skills and what classes. But in the beginning of the game, you have to take a kind of a quiz for your character, like what would you do in this situation, blah blah blah. And I think that decides your initial class. I started off as a kind of wizard class because without fail, I always start off as a wizard class in every game. Um, I didn't, I didn't even attempt to try to. It just happened to be that the way to answer the questions, I turned into a wizard. I believe that my starting class was sorcerer or magician, maybe. I don't remember. I think those are both classes. Um, but you go into it and you start off relatively easy. And well, I should mention there's three levels of difficulty in this game, and it's kind of like normal, hard, and extreme. Um, so there's not an easy, but I'll talk about that. I should talk about the difficulty. There's no easy, but like basically it's easy. Um, I played initially on hard, and I thought like it was too easy. It was too easy on hard, so playing through it, I thought, wow, I gotta try the extreme. So I you did it play through on the extreme setting, and it still wasn't really difficult. And as far as I could tell, the only difference between hard and extreme was that like the enemy troops, there would be a few more of them, and they would do things like summon troops more often. I'm not sure if that's it. Maybe their stats are a little higher, but it wasn't noticeably higher. It wasn't so much higher that I was like, oh, that's a problem. It wasn't really like that. So when you play through, you get, it's not that hard. I'd actually, if you're not good at strategy RPGs at all, or strategy games in general, you could still play this and I think get through it pretty easily. It's not too tough. Um, but let me go back now. I want to talk about the characters and how the classes work. So you have a bunch of classes in this game, and you get characters depending on the paths you pick in the game. You usually get to test out almost everybody before you have to select. That's not exactly true, but you get to test out almost everybody depending on the path you take, and you get to kind of choose who you want to support in the battle. And there's like three major factions plus like your own kind of neutral route. And you have these things that you can, do with that. But each of the characters, each of the kind of factions have different um, kind of faction specific units. There are units that are only part of certain factions. So like the first time I played through, I worked with the kind of the Kingdom of Darkness or whatever it is in English, and they don't have any like bowmen or gunmen. Like there was nobody who had that stuff. At least none of the characters I used seemed to have those skills, and I never had the ability to buy those weapons. So like even if I wasn't using the character, I just couldn't do it. And then, and I should say, I played through this game twice, and I tried the neutral route the second time, and I got different characters. You get kind of a smattering from everywhere, so I did get some certain types of weapons and things that I couldn't get in the previous one. And of course, I got different characters for the most part. But beyond that, depending on the class you are, you get certain support units. You can kind of go to a guild, and before each battle, you can assign support units to each unit for amount of points that you gain by finding it on the map or killing enemies in the previous battle. So what you'll do is you assign these units to your character, and if they're within a certain range of your character, they get bonuses. So they become like an added character that's worthwhile, sometimes more worthwhile than the character that's controlling them, depending on your stats. So you'll find that if you're having any trouble whatsoever, like you can load up on guys from the guild and keep them close to the guy that's controlling them. Usually your main guy is the best choice because he'll usually have the best stats. But you might have other people with better stats. I have someone in my team who was infinitely better than my main character, just like so much better. Like their closest stats were like not even close. Um, and when you have that kind of thing, if you have their units they'll get the same bonuses to their stats that that unit has if they're close. So you'll find that like later in the game when you get unlock more advanced units, you'll be able to get like 3 or 4 troops that are extremely powerful if you have some characters that are extremely powerful. Um, and it makes, I mean, that's a lot of the reason why it becomes so easy. Like in the first playthrough towards the middle of the game, I just gave up on buying troops, like on getting extra troops. Like it adds a lot of time to the gameplay, and like it was totally unnecessary because it wasn't difficult enough to warrant having to spend all that the extra points that I could be using for weapons or something on supplementary troops. So, but I'm like I said, if you are having trouble, buy troops. They're if they survive, you get point bonus back, so that helps too. Um, it's not it's really not that difficult. But you'll find that like obviously certain troops are better than others, and certain have better abilities than others. So you'll find that sometimes you can get people who are not bowmen, but you can get a bowman troop attached to them. So like you can kind of play a blocking game where you put your guy up in front, the bowman can shoot from far away, and you kind of get like you can get like a wall of bowmen behind a wall of people that are hard to get through. There's a lot of strategies you can use to make the game like really simple, and they're usually effective in that kind of situation. So it's good. I think that's actually, it sounds like I'm kind of bashing for being too easy, but that's actually a good point because it makes you have to think of strategies to how to use your troops effectively. And if you do, it has a good effect. If you don't, well, I guess you'll lose. But if you do, you'll find that everything becomes quite simple. So what else do we have here? We've got let me talk about the maps. The maps aren't incredibly varied, and neither are the win conditions. For the most part, you'll find that almost every map has the same win condition, which is just like kill all the other enemies. Occasionally, you'll get ones that are like kill all the enemies or go escape, so like get to a certain area. Be, um, there's, but in most cases, I just killed all the enemies, even when there was escape, because it's more beneficial to you to do that because you'll get more points, and if the more points you have, the more troops you can get, and the more weapons you can attach to your generals. So it's almost always more worthwhile to kill as many guys as possible, and I say that specifically because there is another system in the game the where your troops, if you have troops attached to a general and the general dies, all the troops die too. And that works for the enemies as well. So if you go into a battle and there's like kind of a general and he has, say, 3 units attached to him, if you just run up and kill the general, all the other troops around him will die, the ones that he's controlling. But you don't get points for those. So it's more beneficial to you to kill all the troops, even though it like takes more time and could possibly lead to you losing troops. It's still more beneficial to kill all the troops and then kill the general if you have the option. Because sometimes the generals will bum rush you and they'll die on a counterattack, and all their troops will die. You lose those points though, so it's kind of, you want to try to make strategies to avoid doing that to maximize the amount of points you get, because later on the costs for things get really high and you won't be able to buy armor and weapons for everybody. And not that you can use everybody, but and not that I would suggest even trying to use everybody, but you have a lot of different options that are there for you, and it's always beneficial to get more points no matter what. Um, that's I don't know. I'm trying to think of other things that I might want to say about the systems of the game. Um, Things that are important, at least. Um, it would be much better if I had the game in front of me to look at it, but I don't. Um, there are. I'm trying to think of anything else that is interesting for the game. I guess I could mention that the story is there. There is a story, and it changes depending on your choices, which is nice. So you can get wildly different endings in this game. And there are a bunch of kind of break off points. So if you really want to see all the endings, you could just save at the decision points, and there's like 2 or 3. and you can get to different endings relatively easily. Not that it even matters, because once you finish the game once, you can just kind of keep all your stats and go into the next thing, and it won't affect all the troops, all the units, because if you're going on a different route, you won't get the same units. But you have a core group of people, and those will all stay the same. So when you go through the game, after your first playthrough, I mean that the first couple of rounds up until um, the first decision point is it's like nothing. You can get there really easily, and really quickly too, because you don't even have to think about strategy. You just blow through it. Um, so it's pretty interesting actually, because you get to see kind of different sides of the stories when you're going through, and the story is, you know, generally interesting. I it's not a great story, but it's an all right story, and I think like getting to see different parts of it is interesting. And there is a kind of a character interaction system. It's not like Fire Emblem really, like like the latest Fire Emblem Awakening and Fates, I believe is the English name. But the two latest Fire Emblems have that kind of character build, like uh, bond building thing. That's in this game. So you'll like be able to select three characters to talk to and kind of build a bond with them. But this game, it doesn't really focus on it that much, because it's really not hard to get like a near max with everybody right away. So you have like a core group of people that you're probably always going to be using, and then you'll get like a couple more people later on that are stronger that you'll want to keep in your party. And generally, like if you just keep selecting the people who you're going to use, you'll go up to the kind of max level with them, the max kind of bond with them really quickly, which gives you bonuses. Like when they're nearby, you'll get like bonuses to attack and defense, which is necessary for a lot of times. But once you start using it and you're at max, you're getting like +5 or +6, depending on if you have like a romance. Um, and like that's a big bonus. Like +5 or +6 to your defense is like nobody's gonna be able to damage you, especially if you have a character who's like been getting a lot of kills. If you're like a little bit over leveled with one of those characters and he has like a +6 bonus next to somebody else, basically you're invincible. They're like by the end of the game, you'd think like there'd be strong enemies, but like by the end of this game, even on the first playthrough, like my main character was essentially invincible. There wasn't any enemy who had enough attack power to do any damage to him. So in this game, like the stupidest, simplest strategy would be kill everybody on the map with two characters. Um, just level those characters up till they can't be leveled up anymore. Usually your main character and somebody who has high mobility, and you can an event essentially if as long as you keep giving them high defense and high and or attack bonuses, they'll be it'll be hard to beat you towards the end. It'll be hard for them to even do damage to you. Um, so yeah, I think it makes the game, it's a little broken towards the end. Like especially if you've kind of figured out the systems. I guess if you don't do that, if you haven't like figured out how to like kind of min max everybody, you're it might get hard. I guess it could get hard. But I didn't have there's not like a stage where I think like I had any real trouble winning, and even on extreme, like it wasn't extreme enough. I think. So I'm trying to think of what else. There is that bond building thing with the characters, which I mentioned. It does give you bonuses, which I mentioned. Um, I did say that you can like do a relationship with people. There's like a max level that's not the relationship, and it's like um, I don't know what the English name is going to be for it, so I'm not even gonna try. But everybody can get there, and then like around the 20th map or so, you have to choose somebody, and if they're at the highest level, they'll become like your romantic interest, and you'll get a +6 when you're near them instead of +5. So that's a thing, and it's also you can also do it with anybody in the game. Like it doesn't matter if you want to like have the romance with a male or a female. The game doesn't ask. Just whichever whatever one you want to choose. Um, I chose the demon girl in this game. My first playthrough, I didn't have her at max level when I got to level 20, so she just refused. And then on the second playthrough, I got her. But it's kind of interesting, but it's not. It's such a minor part of the game that like it takes up very little time. It's very non-intrusive, but it's also very helpful, which actually gives in my opinion makes it better than the Fire Emblem ones because that was so. I mean, I know you guys didn't get the ridiculous rubbing mini game for the dealing with people in Fire Emblem Fates, but that seriously ruined my enjoyment of that game a lot. It like totally made me angry to have to do that all the time. In this game, where it's just like a quick kind of story interaction and a menu selection, like done quick, and I think that's pretty good for me. And so it's like not in, it doesn't take enough time to be annoying, and it's not intrusive enough to be like something you can get through really quickly. And then it actually has some tangible bonus for everybody, so it's helpful. So I guess I'll say it that way. I mean, it works out a bit better. Um, so like I said, there are a bunch of different endings. I want to say there's five endings, but there might be six. Um, I saw three. Um, because there's kind of like a there. Now that I think about it, there might be more endings. Um, because there is a kind of like a good ending and a bad ending, and there's probably a good ending, bad ending for each route. I'm assuming, but it might be end up the same. I'm not really sure. Um, and then there's the kind of the neutral way where you have an entirely extra map if you can get it, and it's totally worth getting. If you're only, I'm going to suggest that if you only plan on playing through Langrisser once, um, go the neutral route and try to get the special end map. Um, it's delightful. It's a joke map. It's like after the credits. It's a stupid joke map, but it's such a good stupid joke map that you're that I liked it. I laughed out loud when the map started. It's that goofy, and I I feel like I shouldn't ruin it for you, but it is pretty. It's very protein based, and think of that and the developer as Messiah. So that's enough clues to give you a good idea of what's going to be happening on that final map. Um, and so that's basically it. I think like overall, I would say it's a generally quick game. The first playthrough took about 15 hours, maybe less than that. But the second playthrough took six, maybe. It was stupid easy and fast. And I don't know. I feel like it's not a huge time sink. It's not going to take up a lot of time. The a lot of this the later levels take a bit longer, obviously, because there's more units. But like the initial levels, you can go through in like 15 minutes each. It's really quick. It's kind of there's 25 total maps and 26 on the neutral path, and it's good. Um, None of them feel like incredibly long. I didn't feel like I didn't get like that kind of the end of Project Cross Zone kind of feeling where it's just like the map is like an hour and a half of just bashing heads in the middle of the map with everybody. Um, it feels good. It feels all right, and sometimes you have different kinds of like a flow to the battle, even though like it's essentially the goal is kill everybody. You get different kind of flows to the battle depending on like if there's reinforcements coming or whatever the storyline is, and it changes depending obviously depending on the storyline route. So like sometimes you're doing different maps or doing different things altogether, and it's interesting. So overall, I if you don't mind that it feels kind of cheap, like cheaply made, um, and you're looking for like a kind of relatively not difficult, not too long strategy RPG, Langrisser is not a bad choice. Um, if you're looking for something that's like going to be a super challenging or something that is like well polished and isn't easily breakable, maybe you won't like Langrisser. If you want something um, like that, you might be better off with some with a Fire Emblem. It's obviously Fire Emblem has got a kind of higher pedigree and a higher quality to it, but if you just like strategy RPGs and you like kind of different kinds of things that, and you don't feel like dropping a truckload of time into it, Langrisser is not a bad choice. Other than that, I don't really think I have much to say. Um, Obviously, there was a bit of a controversy about this game because the normal Langrisser artist doesn't do the art for this. I don't really care. It's not like a big deal to me. I don't. I mean, I know there's a lot of people who are fans, but I don't really care. I don't generally play the game for the art. I just like the strategy RPG. It could have been blocks with numbers in it, and I would have played that and been fine. Um, Generally, I think like, you know, it would have been cool if it matched the other games, but it's not a necessary thing for me. So it wasn't a problem. I mean, for some people it was a problem, but not for me. So anyway, overall, that was Langrisser. It's good. It's not great. It's not like one of my favorite strategy RPGs. It's not even one of my favorite Langrisser games, but it's good and relatively quick, relatively painless. You can just go right through it. So it's genuinely okay. Give it a shot if it sounds interesting to you. Otherwise, you're not going to be missing a huge um, special game that you're going to regret not playing if you don't play it. But if it sounds all right, then pick it up. So that's about it. That's it for Langrisser. I will see you guys next time.